Good morning. It's 8 minutes past 6. I'm just about to head up to the southern end of the Brown Clee hill, which is Clee Surf itself. This I think gives better views, or certainly better foreground, and kind of more of a sense of a drop than the highest point where I was the other day. So I'm going to hope for when on the drive here this morning, about half an hour drive from home, there was quite a lot of valley mist. The forecast was actually for fog until yesterday, and then it changed typically, and it's become more patchy, but there certainly was some on the way. So hopefully when I get up to the top and I can see over the other side into the Corvedale and looking over towards Craven Arms Way, there'll be more fog. There certainly used to be a lot more fog that way and mist when I lived there. So fingers crossed, I'm heading away right now. It's about 20 minutes now to sunrise. I'm probably about 5 minutes away from breaking out onto the top, but looking pretty nice actually. There we go. I better get my skates on. Okay, so this is where I find out whether I made the right decision or not. Some nice valley mist behind me, but obviously obscured by trees and so on, but here we are. Excuse me. I think I must have swallowed a frog. Oh yes. Okay, it's looking nice. Excuse the bad camera work. If I go this way. Oh yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over here. There's an open knoll. I'll probably head up to the radio mast after this. I'll have half an hour here, but I want a bit of open ground. I'm just going to probably get the long lens out and concentrate on picking out some details over there, but colours are lovely right now actually, so maybe I'll go wide first. We'll see. I'm literally going to head over onto that shoulder of the hill. It's a nice path just here which takes you down to an Iron Age fort over there on the horizon, well on this hill, sorry, on the end of this hill, Nordy Bank I believe. Carry on up this way. There's beautiful pinks and so on in the sky right now. It's absolutely lovely. And one of the really nice things here for me is that with woodland between me and the sunrise, effectively I get shade cast for a while, and again that helps me to control my foreground better. You know, brightly lit grasses and rocks are nice enough, but a little bit harder to manage. Right, what I'm going to do is break out the camera and get cracking on making a few photos. I decided actually in the end to press on for the top, simply because I know there's some rock up here, and foreground back there was pretty uninteresting. And this mist in the valley isn't going to clear, so I'll have plenty of time to kind of go in close with it with a longer lens later. Woo. Okay, well the sun is actually up. It's been up for about 3 or 4 minutes, and here is the second reveal. This is lovely here. Here we go. Beautiful. Oh yeah. Look at that. That's lovely. You've got the remains of the quarry here. We've also got this kind of savanna grassland below in the valley, on the shoulder of the hill before it drops away. In the distance, you see the Malvern Hills. Between us and that, we've got Clibry Mortimer, Tenbury Wells. Gosh, it's a lovely light. That's beautiful. Wow. I'm just going to head to some rocks over here. I was rather hoping these would be in the shade, but it's not the end of the world. Soft, the light's pretty soft right now anyway, so it's not going to be too harsh on the rocks. There's mist all around me, so yep, I think I've got my timing right. What I'll do is look in that direction. The sun's coming up over there, and then if I turn this way, all the way around. Yeah. And in the background behind this radio mast, you can just make out the summit of Abdenburf at the back. really is rather beautiful up here right now. I'm not mad keen on this very, very brittle light that you can get on a kind of crisp day like today, but the mist in the valley is lovely. I haven't actually put a long lens on yet and taken gone and taken any photos of that yet, so I'm going to head over here and look at my long shadow. I'm going to head in that direction, just go over the fence and then get kind of a little bit more of a clear view into the valley, put the long lens on the camera, I think. Yep, I needed 2 hands to get over that because I'd have torn my trousers otherwise. So these are drumlins from old quarry workings, and what I'm about to look down on is actually probably quite a substantial quarry from many years ago. Look at this. I'm just going to put a long lens on and look into that valley over there. I think it's easy to forget in these days of immediacy in almost everything that we do, the reasons we, or certainly I, and I'm sure many of you, go out to photograph, which is just to be outdoors and to enjoy being and kind of experiencing peace, because there's very little of that often in our lives. We've all seen these images of people at rock concerts all holding their phones in the air filming rather than enjoying the experience. And I think photography's in danger of becoming very much the same thing. So I make a point these days of stopping. I'll take a flask of coffee or something and just stop, sit, stand, whatever, but enjoy being there. I've just spotted over here. You can see well, you won't be able to see it in the phone shot, but over there in the distance there's a pool of mist, and then just behind it is Ludlow, and I can just see the St Lawrence's Church right in the centre of town. It's one of the tallest parish churches around here, so I think what I'm going to do is again get the long lens and have a little look at that from over here. Some beautiful mist all the way down that valley. So we've got the summit of Brown Clee over there, Abdenburth, and the mist here runs all the way through Corvedale. Centre of frame right now, behind Corvedale, you can see Caer Caradoc and the Lawley, and then beyond that there's just really kind of in the distant mist is Long Mynd, and then all the way through here you can see Corndon Hill at the back, just about. Still Corvedale. Craven Arms will be in front of me now. And then just here is Ludlow, and behind it the hills of Mortimer Forest, heading into Herefordshire. On the far horizon, Brecon Beacons, the Sugarloaf of Abergavenny. It really is a good place to kind of come and enjoy epic long distance views. I'm just having a little wander around. The light now has predictably gone too nice. What I'm doing is I'm just using a little bit of my time to have a look at potential foregrounds for future visits. And I think this is a little bit dodgy down here, but I think yeah, this will work. So it's fairly steep ground here, but I'm always on the lookout for decent foreground, and if I just point this down slightly, wrong way, there we go. It's nice kind of slabby chunks of rock going down into this quarry here, so I think that might do for at some point a nice view, maybe a sunset shot. Let's have a little look. Again, probably a long lens just to pull things in rather than getting too close. When you get really close in, it often gets far too complex. So, beautiful backlit mosses on here. Those three there are lovely. Let me see what I can do with this. So I'm trying to get myself between the camera and the sun, just simply because although the sun's off at an angle, I'm very conscious I don't want to get any lens flare here. So I've set the camera for a 5-second timer. All I've got to do, so I'm at the long end of my 24 to 105, literally at 105mm here, and so I could actually go back to my long lens and put the lens hood on, but I'm kind of playing around with a kind of focal lengths between 90 and 105, so I'll have to keep switching lenses. So what I'm going to do is take this, and then I've got 5 seconds now just to make sure that that shadow is across the lens. There we go. Hopefully that's a nice strong kind of contrasty shot without any issues with flare. Amazingly, I've been here for 2.5 hours now, and I think I'm going to call it a day. It would be a fantastic day for a long walk, but I've found lots of things down here, in particular in this little field, that I'm going to come back and have another look at on another occasion. I've made a few images today I'm reasonably happy with, but I think actually the potential here is enormous. So I began the long, slow descent back down to the saddle between Abdenburf and Clee Surf. And as I did so, I was reminded really of how important this hill is to me. The view across the savannah trees to the hill on the far side, Titterson Clee Hill, was the last walk I took with my father before he passed away in 2015. So very poignant, actually, looking back now at the fact that that hilltop on the other side of the valley there was the last place, the last time we stood together enjoying a view. But also, Clee Surf was the first place I came to after the COVID lockdown was lifted and we were allowed to travel a little bit further afield to go walking. And I remember actually arriving here literally being in tears at finally having a sense of freedom again. And so this was my very first image after lockdown in 2020. mentioned the other day when I was up here that isn't probably the most interesting hill from a photographer's perspective. That may be true, but I think as a place to come and rest and clear your head, there isn't actually a better hill in Shropshire than this. It's so expansive, there's so much space, you really don't get to meet anybody. I've been up here dozens of times over the years, and I think I've probably passed about 4 people in all that time, and to a point where you can say hello, have a little chat or whatever, but the rest of the time it's completely and utterly empty. It's incredibly peaceful. I could just sit on this bench now. If I brought a lunch with me, I'd just sit and enjoy the lunch, and probably I'd take a nap and just enjoy being out here because it's absolutely superb. To be honest, this is why I'm a landscape photographer. So I recommenced my journey downhill, and on entering woodland was very, very quickly distracted again. And there was me thinking I'd finished. Then I saw this. Look at this. Look at this here. That's just lovely, that. Wow, so much character. And so for the 3rd time I set off back to my car, and since I'd set off to climb the hill in the dark, I thought I'd include some footage of me coming back down just to give an impression of some of the scenery and the landscape that you pass through on the way to the top here. This is a far less walked route to the summit, and certainly my favourite. The last few clips here are again shot handheld with my drone. My phone hasn't got a huge amount of memory, and also tends to have a little bit of a hissy fit after a while these days, and it's heavily used. So I resorted to using my drone, which of course doesn't record audio, but the image quality is far, far better. Well, once again, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to leave you again with a set of images from this particular trip up the hill and also from a couple of previous visits.